Live from Las Vegas, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker. L.A. Walker. Raw and unfiltered conversations on how to give life's challenges the finger. Truth is your passport to emotional freedom. Give an eviction notice to negativity. Dump yesterday's garbage. Learn how to be positive, energized, healthy, and alive during these insanely unpredictable times. Look up, get up, stay up. Then help somebody else to get up. Remember, any part of up is higher than down. Now, broadcasting hope to the world, L.A. Walker.
How are you? How are you? And the answer is always fine. Well, if that's not true, you're not alone. But here's the formula. No matter what happens in life, you must find a way to look up, get up, and stay up. Any part of up is higher than down. Yesterday's stuff has absolutely no right and does not have my permission to come into my new day and ruin it. That's not happening. Stop. And it's my job and duty to myself to not allow that to happen. Sometimes life is just hard. I mean, sometimes we go through situations in our daily living where just one problem after the other. You have financial problems, health problems. You have long-term relationships that you thought you could count on forever that, for whatever reason, just implode. You feel like you're alone. You're walking a tightrope. Every day just becomes more cumbersome. Phew. And so what? Who cares? No one cares. And you shouldn't care either. Because the reality of it is, whatever it is, it's going to pass. It will pass, or you're going to pass. Something's going to cease. I'll be back with episode 3 of Dementia, the Land of I Don't Know, with our special guest today, Jennifer Wampler. I'll be back. Really, truly, right after this. Illumina on Raiders Way is your resort home. It comes equipped with the latest in-home technology, workspaces, and activities that promote health and wellness. With Lexi's Bistro providing indoor and outdoor dining, entertainment, craft, cocktails, and gaming, resident lifestyle care has never been better. Comfort and enjoyment every day at Illumina on Raiders Way. Call for a tour today at 702-825-7253. Book a tour at 702-825-7253. Be sure to say you heard of Illumina on Raiders Way from me, L.A. Illumina on Raiders Way, another Schulman residential resort property with resident lifestyle provided by Axum Hospitality.
You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker.
Continuing with our episode of Dementia Caregivers, the Land of I Don't Know, our guest today is Jennifer Wampler. Jennifer and I have never officially met. We've only communicated via social media and especially on our Wonderful World of Was page, our dementia musical dramedy play, where we have, intermittent discussions. I share information, people communicate back about what they're going through, and this is how we've been communicating. One thing I have enjoyed most about our relationship is that Jennifer stands in her own truth. And the truth is, if having lost one family member to dementia, how about 2? Jennifer has lost her mom and her dad to dementia.
Right. I'll tell you, I never cried, L.A. When my dad passed. I didn't cry for months. I cried at his ash scattering, which was December, and he passed in October. So it was the first time and I think the only time I cried over my dad. So I don't know if that makes me a cold fish, but it's just how I deal with life,
Funny you should mention that. I was very impacted by my mother's death, and I'm an only child, so I guess that's natural that I would be really impacted by her leaving me. But when my dad passed, I didn't have that same emotional outburst. And so then I got afraid, actually, because I handled my mother's death emotionally so horribly because there were so many other things that went along with her death. But anyway, that I kept expecting, I'm going to have this explosion. I'm going to have this explosion. It never came. But it haunted me because I continued to think that it was going to happen and maybe that I was suppressing my emotions. But it didn't happen. So that was good. It was like good.
That's fascinating, and I don't know. Yeah, isn't it odd because I definitely had the same kind of cadence, if you will. And maybe it's because it's the first parent who passes. Maybe it's the mother-daughter thing. Maybe, I don't know, but my mom passed, and that was devastating to me. And I mean devastating. I think I spiraled into alcohol addiction that, not to blame my mom, because I was probably fairly well on my way to being there anyway. So I don't want to say because she died I did this.
Oh, no, I get it.
I mean, I was heading down that path, but it definitely got significant and more dangerous in the years following her passing. And so I definitely took my mom's passing harder, and I can't say, and I honestly can't say I loved her more or love my dad any less. Maybe it's because I had the experience already, but I don't know. It's strange that you had a similar kind of reckoning.
Very.
My mom's was super traumatic, and my father's was, I mean, I missed him, and I miss him every day, and I think about him all the time, but I don't have this kind of emotional breakdown that I had with my mom. And I've wondered if that makes me abnormal, but I'm glad to know it doesn't.
No, I'm right there with you. And in fact, bringing out a different conversation, and yet still staying on that path, I wanted to, while we're talking, to broach the subject of relationship dynamics. And I think we already have, actually. People, I did not realize, nor did I think about the fact that my relationship with my spouse going through dementia is so much different than my co-write partner's relationship going through dementia with her mom. The relationships our expectations of relationships, the performance of the relationship, the desire of the relationship are totally different. And I didn't consider that until after we, had talked extensively about how she feels and what she's going through while she's watching her mom enter dementia decline. And it's just amazing. So you had...
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. And that occurred to me as I was thinking this morning about our call is it's a very different situation to lose a parent than it is to lose the spouse, the love of your life, the partner.
Yes.
I can't even fathom. I haven't experienced it. God bless.
Right.
And I just don't know. I can't even fathom how different it would be on so many levels, on every level, every conceivable level, right?
Right. Well, in having a conversation with Marcia, and she shares some things with me that being a child, first of all, her mom is 94 years old. That says a lot right there. But it wouldn't matter if her mother was 179, she's still her mother and she's still the child. And so when you are placed in the position as she to take on the adult role in the relationship, it creates an enormous amount of friction between the parties, as well as guilt, as well as it brings about some unpleasant dialogue coming from her mom in relationship to her. I'm not a kid. I understand. I know what I'm doing. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, it is. God, it's just like you're in my head, Ellie. It is. You haven't truly come full circle until you've changed your mom's diaper, right? And I think on reflecting it feels, because my mom never lived in my home when she was declining, because my dad was still alive and well.
Okay.
And he was her primary caregiver. He bore the brunt of all of it.
Oh.
He took care of her. I mean, we helped to the best we could. And in hindsight, definitely not adequately, because I don't think we appreciated what he was going through with her and how devastating. I mean, there's so many things that were different about the experience with my mom, from my relationship with her early on and how I interacted with her in the early phases, and how I understood what my dad was going through and what he was feeling and what he was dealing with, and how I did it so much differently, and I think better for the learning of it with my father. I definitely, I was impatient with my mom in ways that with my dad, I gave him so much more grace, understanding what I did from dealing with my mom, right? And, I never had her living with us. My dad, in the thick of it, was living in my home, and I was his primary caregiver, right? And we were dealing with the decline of the mental capacity as well as his physical capacity, because he had Parkinson's and related dementia, right? So he had the double whammy, the physical decline and the mental decline. And we were dealing with him in our home in the middle of COVID, right? Completely different experience from what we did with my mom. My mom, it was like we were on the outside looking in, right? And with my dad, I was, the eye of the storm, and it was different. And again, not to keep bringing up the topic of how I processed it, but I think that maybe played into how.
One of the reasons why I do what I do is because of what you just said. Once you had an experience with your mom, it kind of gave you a heads up about what's coming with your dad. And so you were a lot more equipped to understand it was not going to be a perfect road, and there was no happy ending. And so you got an opportunity to give him more grace, and giving yourself more grace, because you had a better understanding. You kind of anticipated certain behaviors were going to occur and what you were going to have to do to meet the demands of those behaviors. Well, honestly, you and I were in the same position, because I went through high COVID with my spouse with dementia. I did not have a clue about dementia. I mean, I knew absolutely zero. I did not know anything about the particular behaviors that were going to take place. I was in total, absolute shock. The only thing I was prepared for is that I had heard and seen on television and through documentaries that there was going to be a day that she might not remember my name. And of course, that did occur. But other than that, all the other stuff that took place, nobody told me. Nobody told me. And no, right? And so I was listening to you when you said you helped, your family helped with your mom as your dad was the primary caregiver. Part of the problem, and why I think it's extremely important that we get information out and we get people's eyes and ears opened, is that you cannot begin to understand caring for someone with dementia if you have not done it. And so you have a mom, and she's always been, lucid, and she had, times that she laughed and cried and did different things. And so when your dad or someone says your mom has dementia, it really doesn't have any meaning to you. And so when you see certain behaviors, you think, oh, well, that's going to pass, because we're equipped to think that it's going to pass. It's going to get better. And so, watching it decline, you still holding on. Nah, it can't be that bad, And then finally, it just gets so bad. It's like it just suddenly gets so bad, but it doesn't. It's just that we wake up late in the game. And the person who's doing the caregiving is like not being able to get through And no one really likes to bellyache and tell people, this is really bad. This is really hard. I'm suffering under this. This is a burden. This is, we don't like to say that stuff. And so
we're conditioned to be stoic, right?
Yes, correct.
Especially,
correct.
And I again, not to get into gender roles here, but I mean, especially as women, we're
Yes.
conditioned to be stoic and deal with stuff and not complain. So it's so hard. And then the guilt, right? The guilt is something, about every little thing. I look back and I think about the times where where we didn't know what was happening to my mom and how I reacted to her behaviors. Right now, in hindsight, I understand what was happening, and I feel horrible.
Of course.
I remember one time we were at the opera. My mom and dad and I and my husband were at the opera, and she just couldn't stop talking and loud and interrupting, and I was embarrassed by her. I was short-tempered with her over the whole situation. At the time, I didn't know she was losing her brain function and that she was suffering from early Alzheimer's symptoms and frontotemporal dementia. And I didn't know what those were, and I certainly didn't know she was having it. I just thought Mom, and my mom was kind of a character, right? She was not wild, but she was out there. She was, I could go on for days talking about my mom. She was special and amazing and unique and out there. So I just thought it was my mom being mom, but annoying me. And I was kind of rude to her. And you look back at all those little moments and go, was I a bad person? And you have to give yourself the same grace that you're trying to give them in hindsight and say, no, you didn't know. You were
Absolutely.
At worst, you were an ignorant person.
Absolutely.
Ignorance is not knowing.
Right.
It's not being mean or rude or stupid.
Right.
It is not knowing or understanding, and that's where I was. With my dad, I was like, okay, I get it. Okay, all right. And I was far, far, far better equipped with him to meet him where he was and understand I needed to do that. With my mom, I just didn't. And then it all came so fast, and it was just horrible. It was horrible. I remember one night my dad had before they put her in assisted living, because she got it towards the end and really dangerous and had to be put in an assisted skilled nursing facility. And I remember my dad one night calling me, and he was at his wit's end, and he was completely just, he couldn't deal with, she was getting increasingly physical with him because of her, they get frustrated and they get physical, bordering on violent or maybe even violent.
Yes.
And he needed a break. And I said, we'll take her for the night. Oh my gosh, that was the longest night of my life, L.A. It was, you live this every day with your partner and you understand. And at the time, I didn't know what I was signing up for. And oh my gosh, I literally was up with her the entire night because she was agitated and she wanted my dad and she couldn't understand where she was. And she was, and I slept by her side all night long to keep her safe. And it made me understand what my dad, a little bit of and I was so relieved to give her back to him the next day. And I felt guilty over it because I thought, oh, look what I'm turning him back over to deal with. Is just, there's so many layers of emotion that, God, what if I understood then what I know now, you always look at it that way. It's an interesting spectrum of emotion and learning and everything else.
You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker.
In a world where memories slip away like grains of sand through fingers, there exists a timeless collection of solace and understanding. Introducing Whispers of the Heart, a poetry collection by Marcia Norris, published by Social Issues Theater. Within these pages lies a sanctuary of words crafted to honor the journeys of those touched by dementia and the steadfast caregivers who walk alongside them. Whispers of the Heart speaks directly to the hearts of wives, husbands, siblings, friends, and the youth whose emotions often go unheard. Each poem is a gentle embrace, offering comfort and validation to those who have felt the weight of uncertainty and loss. These verses are not just words on a page. They are beacons of empathy, guiding readers through the shadows of confusion and grief. Whispers of the Heart is more than just a book. It's a testament to the enduring power of love and connection. It's a gift that can be personalized, shared, and cherished, honoring the lives of those we hold dear. Join us in embracing the beauty of remembrance and resilience. Whispers of the Heart is available now, a beacon of light in the darkness, reminding us all that love transcends memory.
This song is for you. It's a song that death will never undo. Never, 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 never.
You can purchase your copy of Whispers of the Heart at thesit.org. That's thesit.org.
You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker.
Everything that you have said has brought so many layers to light. First layer is that, yes, we do have to give ourselves some grace in order to continue, because 30% of caregivers or more pass during the process of providing care. That's a very large number. That means that it's extremely stressful. The other thing is that we, as it relates to public outings, we're trained to be quiet. You're going to opera, you definitely want to be quiet. You're in the movie theater, you're in church. And so if you're not and there's a disruption, what is disturbing to us is the perception. What are other people thinking? Are we violating them? And the whole point, again, of getting the information out about awareness and about certain behaviors is that collectively, as human beings and members of communities, we begin to see and notice, oh, that person has dementia, or that person has this condition, or that person, and then we become a little more relaxed, which allows the person who's with the person with condition to relax. So, because if not, people, and especially now, people are showing very little patience in a lot of different situations. So we need as much education as we can, and to tap into our humanitarian side, where we are a lot more considerate and understanding of the needs of others. The other part that comes to mind is when you are talking about, your dad reaching out to you guys for help. That's a very difficult thing to do, by the way, because first of all, I can't even imagine him as a man and then him as a husband having to ask you guys or anyone else for help with his wife. That's a lot. So
it was a lot, and again, he's a man. He was. He was a man of a certain generation, right?
Yes.
And where you signed up for certain roles and responsibilities, and you committed to care for your family and for your spouse until death do you part, and what it meant back then and what it means now. And he even all the way through my mother's illness, he had to. So that one time, it was huge that he felt like he could ask for help and needed to. It tells me how much stress he was under. And like even at the end when he was caring for her, he waited arguably too long to put her into skilled nursing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because he didn't want, it was his job. I'm her husband, I'm taking care of her. And he had to be basically convinced at the end, even with all the trauma he was dealing with, even with all the stress, even with the physical, like I said, she would get, the drill. They get agitated, they get violent, they get frustrated. They're not violent, bad people. They're just, they can't cope because of their mental decline. Sure. And and they act in ways that are not typical behavior for them. Well, he was dealing with all that to the point where it was really not safe for her to be living with him anymore. Yet he still wanted to care for his wife, his beloved wife, the love of his life, and he wouldn't put her in a facility. And it was well past due by the time the children, my siblings and I, were able to convince him, no, you need, mom's not safe with you. That's not an indictment of you. It is not a reflection of your love for her or your ability to care for her. She's not safe. She needs skilled care that you don't know how to provide, and your environment isn't safe for her to live in. And, but convincing him of that was not a slam dunk.
No, I'm sure. Because it wasn't a slam dunk for me.
Code.
If it hadn't been for I tell this story frequently, and I'll tell it as often as I need to. If it were not for a good girlfriend who saw me when life was great, when everything was lovely, and I was out eating dinner and dancing and going to events, and then she saw me when life was just pure, absolute hell. And she said to me, I know that you love Terry, but you are going to have to make some decisions. And when she said that to me, it was just like the earth quaked under my feet. And
Yep.
I didn't want to accept it because if you love someone, the last place you want to put them in is what they call a home. You don't want to do it.
No.
And the guilt that comes with that is just unbearable. It really is. And I want to talk to you a little bit about where are you now on your guilt meter? Because I have found for me personally that I get flashes of incidents of how I handled things, decisions that I was forced to make, interactions that I had with places, like you mentioned, your opera incident. I have had similar exposures with Terry being out and with her dementia behaviors. I went through that. And now I have flashes of that, and there's a certain amount of guilt associated with that. Where are you?
Absolutely. I feel like where I am today is I don't, and I've had tons of therapy. I've quit drinking. I've gone through a lot of analysis and work to kind of understand me, which I didn't have the benefit of having learned back then, right? But I feel like I'm in a place where I can give myself a lot more forgiveness. I do feel you feel what you feel, and I feel the flashes of guilt.
Yes.
Right? I feel the flash of, oh my God, remember that time? But I can process it better. I can say, look, Jenny, you know, the things that I've discussed with you today, you didn't know. You were coping with the best information you had. Give yourself some forgiveness. You learn from it. I mean, I think I'm doing okay on the guilt. And then, you know, I think, I don't know if it's the human condition or the my condition, but my natural go-to is to feel guilty for things that I did or didn't do. Like with my dad, it's a different guilt. I didn't visit him enough in the last year and a half of his life, right? I was busy. I had a family. I had a job. I was living my life. And I didn't go visit him once he was in the skilled nursing often enough. But I can process that, Ellie. I can say, look, you are not required, nor should you be expected to give up your life because of his illness. With my mom, I didn't have the tools, I think, to process. With my dad, I think I was better equipped. The whole situation, if I could say this, and this sounds weird, I know, but the whole situation with my dad was better because I knew a lot more, and I had been through a lot more personal growth to allow me to cope with it in a healthier way. But yeah, I still feel guilty. But I don't wallow in it like I once would have.
That's great.
And I don't beat myself up like I once would have. I allow myself the same grace I would give to anyone else, which is a lot because that's who I am as a person. And I allow myself to to just own what happened and move on. So I'm doing okay. Are you doing okay? Have you been able to give yourself forgiveness and understand?
I have more so this past year than I have in the prior years. And I think it's a process, even to allow yourself to give yourself grace, because I came from a family that didn't believe in giving grace.
Another layer to the onion, my friend. Another layer.
Right, and the best part about life and the funniest to me is that it would be like really cool if on November the 10th you were going to be you're going to get a sign, you're going to get dementia, and when you get dementia on November the 10th, all of your other problems, they're going to go away, and all you have to do is focus on dementia. But it doesn't happen like that. You got all this prior history of relationships that might have been dysfunctional, that might have been painful. And then, you have this responsibility of caring for this parent that, you really didn't like, and they didn't like you.
Yeah.
And so then you still have to go to work, and then you still have to pay bills. And then, of course, you might have your own physical conditions that you might be dealing with at the same time. And then if you have kids, they have wants and they have needs. And then there's this circle of stuff. Life doesn't stand still and allow you to take one problem at a time.
Life does not. And you touched on a really kind of, to go off on a little bit of a tangent, if I may.
Oh, please.
You touched on something when you hit a nerve for me. When you talked about if you knew in November I'm going to get dementia, because the other thing that people need to, and this one I'm not dealing with well, LA, this one I could use all the advice the world has to give. The terror that you live with as the child of people who pass from dementia and watching them go through it. I forget to get milk at the grocery store, it's, oh my God, this is it.
Oh, I know.
I've got it. I know. The terror that I live with and especially as a woman who's approaching 60, right? And it's natural for me to start to forget things, and just without me having Alzheimer's or dementia.
Sure.
I mean, you get older, you get forget. But that I don't cope with well. You asked about the guilt, working through that. That's all good. I live in terror every time I forget the tiniest little thing that this is the start of the slippery slope and I'm done. And I need to know how to process that. That is hard. It's super hard. Not overreacting knee-jerk to every single little slip of the mental capacity that is natural with age, and trying to overanalyze, okay, do I have Alzheimer's starting, or is that just because you're of an age where you forget stuff, and what does this mean? It drives me bonkers. I'm not joking. It's terrifying to me. I don't know.
As it is for so many. I have just allowed myself to go with the hands up, physically hands straight up in the air. Whatever happens, happens. Because I am determined that these days that I'm allotted, these few moments that I have, I'm going to do everything that I can to keep smiling, keep laughing, and keep finding some joy out of every day at some point, some kind of way. And so, and feeling fear of contracting any form of dementia is so unpleasant and so scary and so dark. And so it's about deciding for you that you have absolutely no control over what will manifest itself in the future. The only thing that you and I can do legitimately is to take certain practices, stimulate our minds, puzzles, creating music, pleasant things, staying away from trauma and stress. Those are the only tools that we have. Controlling what we eat, not breathing in a lot of chemicals. And, those are the only things that we can do. And worry, and fear will help us manifest things, because we still have strength of mind and purpose that we can actually say something into existence which we do not want. And so it's a constant reminder. And let me tell you, I am so blessed to have a co-writing friend, because when we're writing these things, we laugh because 2 days later we'll go back and say, "What did you say? What did you say?
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. You're totally right. It is. I don't know why. Well, I think I do know why this one hits me so deeply, because of what I've experienced.
Sure.
Obviously, it's natural that it would hit me deeply.
Sure.
But I, in other aspects of my life, I approach it with the healthy outlook that you just prescribed to me, right? Which
Sure.
is, control what you can control. And what is worrying about it going to do? Nothing. Probably make it worse.
Right.
I can rationalize that in my brain, but I'll tell you, the burning in my gut, the fear, I just need to take a deep breath and focus on the cognitive skills that I know I have to rewire my reaction, right? That's the mission of my life at this point in time, is rewire your response, and through practice and through breathing and through all the skills that I have developed over the last many years, I can do that. But I will not tell a lie. The initial knee jerk is panic. It truly is panic.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
It's brutal.
And let me articulate some grace for you. How many people have two parents that have dementia, who have expired with the condition? And so by you being a very intelligent person and dealing with a lot of statistics, you already are saying to yourself, "Well, golly," you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm a candidate.
Yeah.
And I get it. But I also get the fact that presently you have a great presence of mind. You have a great family. I love following you on Facebook and the interactions that you guys have. It brings me so much joy to see the smiles and the involvement in each other's lives. That is so precious, and may that last for the next 50 years uninterrupted. It's such a beautiful thing. And so
From your lips.
I just want to see you be able to spend that time and focus on the joy that's in front of you, and not worry about it. Just try not to worry about it. And I know
Mostly
that's
I don't.
Yeah, it's big words.
I don't obsess over it 24 hours a day, but it is those little moments of panic, It's just like those, it's like grief, right? It hits you in the most unusual and random times, and then you process it and you move on.
Right.
But again, the other part of the equation, which now that you mentioned my family, which is another dimension of living with this type of illness in your gene pool, which everybody nowadays has it in their gene pool.
True.
I don't know of anyone who hasn't been touched by this in some aspect.
Right.
Is I don't want to do this to my kids.
Right.
Right. And what are you going to do about that, Ella? I not jump off a bridge prematurely so you don't have to put them through it? No, that's not healthy. That's crazy talk. But I don't want my children to live through what I lived through with my parents. Another real nerve-sensitive gut punch is to think my daughter might be changing my diaper.
That's hard, boy. I'm telling you. It's really, really hard. And yeah.
And that comes full circle into the guilt wheel, right?
Well, and then
I'm pre-guilting myself, for something that may never happen to my kids.
And thinking for your kids instead of just for yourself. And so it's a very delicate balance. So here you are, let's say you're the daughter, which you were, and your mom you see is in need of assistance. And your mom, doesn't want you to change your diaper. She doesn't want to go to assisted living, but she doesn't want to put you out and have you working all the blah, 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 blah. But as a child, you want to care for her. She's telling you, I don't want to do this. And you're thinking, okay, just be quiet. Let me feed you. Just be quiet. Let me change you. Because you don't feel comfortable as a child walking away from your parent in need.
Yeah.
And so it's a very delicate balance. And I will say this to you, another reason why I'm so adamant about continuing the work that I'm doing is because I want to encourage people to have that talk. Have that talk with your kids. Sit down and stop talking about politics for a minute and sit down and talk about the ramifications of the future. What
Yeah.
what that could look like.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
feel about that? Have an exchange. How do they feel? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Shockingly, I haven't had those kind of discussions, which I talk about avoidance, but
I know.
talk about,
Yeah.
That is why, can I just say
Sure.
one of the many reasons why I admire you so insanely is you have made it your mission to turn the most intensely painful thing, God willing, that you'll ever go through or ever have gone through, and turn it into something good. And what you're doing to educate and create awareness and fundraise and do all the amazing things that you do, you're an angel here on earth, LA. You really,
Oh my
truly are.
gosh.
You
Oh.
really, truly are.
Oh,
I know you
wow.
don't. I know you're going to go, shucks, I'm not, but you are.
I don't put my
You
finger
are
in the light
something.
socket now. I don't.
No. You really are. I mean, there's so many other unhealthy ways you could deal with what you've been dealt, the cards that you were dealt, and you have just said, you know what? I've got to use this for the greater good. I've got to do something to help other people who've been walking the road that I walked. And that is admirable. It's
Thank
not
you.
inherently something that normal, well, not that you're not normal, but that the average person is going to do with their pain and their learning and their suffering. You've turned it around into something beautiful, and it will outlive you. This legacy that you're creating will outlive you, and it provides comfort to people like me and to thousands, millions. I don't know how many people you'll be able to reach in your lifetime. I hope 1 million, billion more. But it's beautiful. So thank you. Thank you, and God bless you. You're something else, LA.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. That's worth everything. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've in this life, you find that no matter what intellect you've been blessed with, or your financial status, or your educational background, that you do not accomplish anything in this world by yourself. You really don't. And so I've been blessed that I have people around me that know my life to a certain degree, have seen what I've gone through, and have decided to help me on any level that they can. And one of them is a mutual friend, that's Chuck Stutz. And so I'm really grateful for that. On this journey, to be blessed to have a co-write, and now someone who has decided to walk with me through this nonprofit business, Marcia Norris, whose mom is in dementia decline, has decided to do everything that she can to also create a legacy and to help people any way possible, that they don't walk into this wall of dementia, because it's another wall for sure.
Yeah.
And so I just want to kind of like shout out to them, because I need encouragement. I need help. This is this is a journey. While it's doing good, it's very taxing. It's very taxing.
Absolutely. Is Marcia local to where you live?
Yes, she is. And that's very fortunate.
Next trip out, I just need to meet with her and you, because everybody needs a Marcia in their life, right?
Right.
I thank the universe and the Lord every day that I have Chuck in my life. And what's amazing to me is, now, we're part of the fan club, right? We're fangirling.
Right.
But he is that rock and that source of love and unconditional love and support for so many people. It's not just you and me, girlfriend. It is. So yes. Shout out, props to him. He is one of my personal heroes. I always try and live my life in a way that would make him proud. He inspires me.
Isn't that something? And so
Yeah, he is.
he is a charming guy. He's very smart, very compassionate, and very spiritual. You know, he you don't have to tell him the details. You know what I'm saying? And I love that.
Nope.
I love that.
Nope. Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah.
What would Chuck do? WWCD.
We have decided to go on with a book, and we wanted to get persons like yourself that would contribute a story that will share something with the general public that you find or found important to share. That I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
And so if we want to get like a collection of maybe 7 or 8 people to put this book out, because I think testimonials are the way we really learn from each other, because they're believable. You know, as people have really lived it, and so it comes across and touches a lot differently than textbook scenarios. Yeah, absolutely.
I would be more than happy to do that. I'm not a writer.
We'll fix it up.
I'm not a skilled writer.
We got you.
But yeah, I'd be happy to talk more about developing something like that.
Okay.
Anything I can do for the cause would be wonderful.
Thank you
Totally.
so much. Thank you so much.
Speaking of theater, my friend, when are you taking your show on the road? Is that gonna happen, or is that still?
No, that's going to happen. In fact, we're working to lay things out now. I was mentioning to you about getting to LA. We will do a fundraiser just for that. And so we're putting some numbers and things together right now. We already have a director for the show who's actually committed and has worked with several of the SAG-AFTRA artists in LA. So
that's great.
You know, it's a reality. You know, sometimes it's a little slower boat than I'd like, because I like everything like right now. But it's coming. So we're really really pleased and happy about that. And I will
cannot wait because watching the video clips that I see now and then on your website and on the Wonderful World of Was website, they're not scratching the itch, LA. I need the whole thing. I need it. They're helping, but they're not satisfying me. I need the whole thing.
Well, we're going to make sure.
Wait.
We're going to make sure of it. We're going to make sure of it. I just want to share one more thing with you, and I want people that are listening to kind of put this in your spirit. You know, those of us who are forced, for whatever reason, to place our loved ones under the care of a facility, the people that are working in dementia care probably make in an average of $13 an hour, 20 max, generally 13 to 15, in some areas less than that. Most do not come equipped with any official dementia care training. And I just say this, they're human, and they are people, and they need training, and they need care, and they need respite, just like you and I caring for our loved ones. Just want to kind of put that in everyone's spirit, because it's not easy. And I'll tell you what, I would pay someone $20 an hour not to do it. I would be like, here, take 20.
It's shameful how we view and look at care for the elderly and the people who have to provide that care in this, particularly in California. Don't get me started now on how California is one of the few states in the country that skilled nursing for this type of situation is not covered under your insurance. So it will bankrupt a family.
Yes.
It will literally bankrupt a family. My dad, when he was in the skilled nursing, it was running $14,000 a month. Now, why are they paying those people $13 an hour?
There you go. There you go. There we go.
A month?
There we go.
Explain that math to me.
There you go.
I'm an accountant by trade. Tell me how that makes sense.
That makes no sense.
So, it's shameful, and then everybody stands there in shock and consternation when bad actors end up coming in and these people get abused or neglected. Well,
Yes.
what did you think was going to happen?
Honestly.
You wrote the script for that to be the
Oh
scenario.
my gosh.
You
Thank you.
undervalue. I mean, come on. Oh, don't get me started. Now you get me riled up. Oh my gosh.
No, it's true though.
Agreed.
It's true, and we have to stop dancing around the truth and hit it head on, and put ourselves in
Absolutely.
the position of that person. There's no way that you could give me $13 an hour to do that job. And then
Not enough money in the world.
no, really. And so then once you are aware of what that job really entails, then something has to be put in place to say, this is not an 8-hour job. This person can
Yes.
only do this for 5 hours a day. You can't do that for
Yep.
8 hours a day. Let's stop this because it's crazy. It's just ludicrous to expect that. And
Yep.
so, yeah.
And pay them a living wage, please.
A
Can
living
we pay them a
wage.
reasonable? I mean, if you're paying $20 an hour to serve me hamburgers at fast food, which don't get me wrong, I agree we should.
Right.
I'm all for that.
I get it.
How can you not pay somebody double or more of that to care for your living, breathing relative that is in mental decline?
How can you not?
Again,
Right.
how does that make any sense?
Makes
It
no
doesn't.
sense.
That's how it makes any sense. It does not.
But it
Period.
does not. But again, just like we're having this conversation, if we don't have the conversation, we don't get any change. And so we have to start talking about it and then examining it and presenting the fact not only that change needs to occur, but how do we go about making those changes? And how do we go about making those changes today and not 10 years down the road? And so that's another issue, and that's another avenue that I
I have
want
an
to
idea.
address.
Let's put L.A. Walker on it.
Yeah, if I get somebody on this other stuff, I can actually know that working towards legislation is really going to be my next step. I feel that in my spirit because I'm very passionate about it, and I have a greater awareness than a lot of people from a business standpoint. You can't just tell me anything. And like you just said, it makes no sense for people to make $13 an hour knowing how much they're spending every month for that person to be in a care facility. It's insane.
No. So I'm with you. I will march on the state capitals with you. You let me know when you're ready to do that. I will advocate with you because that's BS.
I love you
frankly.
for that. I love you for
Yeah.
that.
Thanks, LA. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Listen to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker every day. To follow up, make comments, discuss today's podcast, or find out how you can become a guest and share your victory over a negative life event, follow L.A. Walker. Up is Higher Than Down on Facebook. Look up, get up, stay up.